Hello YouTube, it's Joe here. This video is HitFilm Basics 2025, and HitFilm is a free video editing software. So, as the name suggests, we are diving into the basics of HitFilm in this tutorial, and this video is designed for beginners, okay? That means while you are watching this, I'm assuming that you have never used HitFilm before. I'm also kinda assuming that you haven't done much video editing with any other software either. So I'll be explaining everything in a way that's hopefully easy for beginners to follow. Now, this tutorial is about 1 hour long. I know it's pretty long, but it's packed with useful stuff. And I really hope that you will learn something new while watching it. Just so you know, I'm a Finnish guy, so my English pronunciation might not be perfect. Thanks for understanding. Okay, before we dive into the actual tutorial, let me say a few words about this tutorial and HitFilm. And of course you can skip this introduction part if you want. You can see the timestamps on the bottom of this video or in the video description. So, if you are not familiar with HitFilm, HitFilm has been around for many years. I personally came across it for the first time probably back in 2016 or 17. And over the years, whenever someone has asked me what's a good free video editing software, I have often suggested that they try out HitFilm. Or another great free video editing software is, of course, DaVinci Resolve. But we are not going to talk about DaVinci Resolve in this video. So HitFilm, in many ways, it's quite similar to Adobe Premiere. If you have ever used Adobe Premiere, even a little, getting started with HitFilm will feel pretty straightforward. Okay, for me it was super easy to jump into HitFilm and start experimenting because I have been using Adobe Premiere for last 10 to 15 years. So about the free version of HitFilm, you can download it onto your computer and it allows you to edit videos, add basic effects, include text, do some color grading, add music and so on. It's great for basic editing, but if the so-called basic features are not enough for you, there is also, of course, a subscription-based version of HitFilm with more advanced tools. And I'll talk about that a bit later. That said, if you are not planning on paying a monthly subscription fee for something like Adobe Premiere, then this free version of HitFilm could be really good alternative. Just to clarify, I don't personally use HitFilm for my own projects or client work. I always use Adobe Premiere for everything, okay? But for me to make this tutorial, I just wanted to take a good look at HitFilm and create this basic guide for the channel, in case it's helpful to someone. So, and here's a quick overview of the topics I'll cover in this video. First, we'll look at where to download the program. Then I'll show you what kind of folder structure you should create for your video projects. And then how to start a video project in HitFilm. And then we'll explore the basic settings and discuss the interface. After that, we'll import some media into HitFilm and go through the basics of editing and how to use the main tools. We'll also dive into the effects, animations, and something called grade layers for adjustments. Then we'll talk a bit about music and audio, and finally I'll explain how to export your finished video. If you want to skip to a specific section of the video, you can find the topics and timestamps listed in the description. During this tutorial, we are going to edit a super simple video, like nothing complicated, okay? Super simple, because I don't want to overwhelm you with some super advanced video editing project, because we are concentrating to the basics of the software. you know. And if you want to download the same video clips I'm using here, you will find the links to them below in the video description. These materials are free to use. And if you are looking for one of those like super fast tutorials where everything is rushed through in just a few minutes, this tutorial might not be the right one for you. My approach is more about taking things one step at a time, like explaining everything as clearly as I can as we go along. I like to make sure that we cover each topic properly before moving on to the next one. Remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions about HitFilm, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Let's get started. Here we are on HitFilm's website, which is fxhome.com. This is where you can download HitFilm. First, let's take a quick look at the pricing page. On this page, you will see that there is a subscription-based version of HitFilm, which comes with more effects, features and tools. And of course, there is also the free version, which we are using. With the free version, you can export your videos in full HD quality. That's the maximum resolution available for the free version. The free version also includes 10 video effects, 25 sound effects, and 5 already made templates you can use in your projects. Okay. If we click here on select for the free version, you will see that the only thing you need to do is to create an account for FX Home. Once you have done that, you can download HitFilm, and you will also need to log in to the program using the account you created. And that's about it. So if we are opening HitFilm, this is how HitFilm looks like when you open it. From here, from this window, you can create a new video project in HitFilm. But before we are jumping into the actual project creation, I just want to say a few words about the folder structures, like how to organize your folders in video projects in general. So here's an example of what my folder structure might look like for this kind of video project. First, you should name the top level folder clearly so that you know what video project is in this folder, you know. For example, the name of my folder for this project is called HitFilm Basics and Forest Video. It's in Finnish here, but that's basically how it translates. Inside that main folder, I usually create 3 subfolders, and the folders are Exports, Materials, and Project. The Exports folder contains the finished video files or exported video files related to this video project. For instance, if I finish a version 1, 2, 3, 4 of this video project, I'll save those exported files in this folder, you know. So, and the materials folder is where I keep all the raw assets for this video project. Under materials, I typically have subfolders. For this project, for example, I have music folder for all the music tracks, and videos folder, of course, for the video clips. And if you have photos, voiceovers, sound effects, or video effects for the project, I recommend that you should create separate folders for each type of different assets within the materials folder. So basically just create subfolders for different types of materials. Then the project folder is where I save the project file itself, okay? The video editing project file. This is the file that opens HitFilm and brings you back to the exact editing state you last time left off when you finished the editing. So if I want to open the project file now, HitFilm would launch and I would see the editing timeline exactly as I left it. Okay, and the project folder is really important to keep like within this main video editing folder structure, because just saying you don't want to search for these project files from anywhere else from your computer, like, because if you are going to make a lot of different kinds of video editing projects, you just want to keep things like very clear where you can find those specific project files for specific video editing projects. Because if you don't know where your project files are, then you just lose time when you are searching for those project files. And that I can say from experience. Over the years, I have noticed like how small video projects can grow into much bigger ones, like super big. And when that happens, the number of files tied to the project can become too big, overwhelming. And if your files are not well organized, it becomes really hard to find what you need. So trust me with this one, it's always better to keep your projects well organized, both now and in the future. And this is the folder structure that I have been using for all of my video projects for the past 10 years. So feel free to use this structure as it is or adapt it to suit your own video editing workflow. Let's click the Create New Project and see what happens. Now this window pops up and it gives us the option to choose a template for our video project, or like the project settings for this video project. And a couple of important things to keep in mind. The resolution, this is the size of the video frame, such as Full HD, the pixels are 1920 and 1080, okay? Full HD resolution. Then there is 720p or even higher resolutions like 4K. Frame rate, this is the number of frames, like frames per second, FPS, in your video. The common options include 24 FPS, often used in films, cinema, and 25 FPS is commonly used also. For example, I use, like almost all the time, the 25 FPS, frames per second. Then there are higher frame rates like 30 FPS, 50 FPS, 60 FPS, 100 FPS or 200 FPS. And if you are going to shoot your video with higher frame rates, like 100 frames per second, you usually want to make like a slow motion video. You usually want to slow down the video, like when you're editing the video in the post-production. That's usually the point of higher frame rates, okay? But yeah, since we are using the free version of HitFilm here, it doesn't make much sense to select these higher resolutions like 4K, because the free version of HitFilm doesn't support exporting in 4K, okay? So let's choose this Full HD with frame rate of 25 FPS, which is also very standard choice for most video projects. And before we move on, I would like to say a couple of things about these project settings. And please hear me out, because these settings are important to understand why you should set different kinds of settings when you are creating your video project here, okay? So in a nutshell, your project settings should ideally match the format of your original footage, okay? The resolution and frame rate at which your footage was recorded. For example, if I go to shoot some whatever video project, when I shoot the video, I decide like what the settings are. And let's say I shoot my video with Full HD resolution and 25 FPS, okay? Then I will shoot all of the videos or most of the videos with those settings. And then when I come here to edit my video with HitFilm or Adobe Premiere, I set up my video project here with those same settings that I had in my camera when I shot my videos. Okay, those camera settings should ideally match these video project settings. That's the ideal situation. But of course there are things that you should consider or think about when you are setting up these video project settings. You should think about the end result. I mean, you should think about where you are going to put the final video. Are you going to make an YouTube video, which is a horizontal video? Or are you going to make an Instagram reel, Facebook vertical video, or YouTube short? That's also vertical video. Or are you going to make a square video? That's also possible. Because when you are making this video project and setting up these settings, you should think about the end result, like what kind of video you want out of this HitFilm or out of Adobe Premiere. If you want vertical video out, then you create that kind of video project and put that kind of settings here, okay? But for example, our settings here, we could be making like a horizontal video for YouTube. It could be full HD and 25 FPS video. For example, this YouTube video that you are watching right now, this tutorial, this is full HD and 25 FPS video, okay? And when I edited this YouTube video in Adobe Premiere, I actually put exactly the same kinds of settings to my project when I was editing it with Adobe Premiere. Summa summarum, you should think about the end result from the beginning already when you are shooting your video, okay? And when you are starting to edit your video, you ideally put the same settings to this video project settings, and then you take out that kind of video from whatever video editing program. It doesn't matter if it's HitFilm or Adobe Premiere. You can of course change these settings whenever you want, but all the things that I just said, these are just like guidelines you should think about as a beginner if you are making videos, okay? But yeah, let's move forward. Click OK. So here is the HitFilm interface. If you are opening HitFilm for the very first time, you might see a Learn window on the left side on the screen. This window has a bunch of short tutorials about how to use HitFilm, so feel free to check those out if you want. But if you want to close it, just click this button here. Your HitFilm interface might look a bit different from mine. For example, when I was testing and playing around with the software, I moved the layout panel to the right side of my screen. You can find this layout option under the window and layout. You can adjust and move these panels around by simply clicking and dragging them to where you want. So now let's take a quick look at some of the key or the main panels. Media panel is where you import all the materials for your video projects, like video clips, audio files, and music. And once imported, they will appear here. The Effects tab is, of course, where you will find and select different effects. Next we have the timeline, and this is where you will do the actual video editing, okay? The small icons you see here are the editing tools. When you are editing, the final result of your video will be displayed in this upper window here. In this trimmer window, you can like preview your material. You don't need to put them straight to the timeline. Okay, so you can watch the material first in this window. If you only want to use like a 10-second clip from a video, you can select it in the trimmer window and then just drag it to your timeline. Lastly, there is this export window, and this window is where you will export or render your finished video project. And we'll talk about this window when it's time to export our video. Alright, let's take a look at the program settings. You can find the settings under the File and Options. In this window, you will see various tabs with the program's like general settings. So let's start by going to the autosave tab. Make sure that the enable project autosaving option is active. This setting will automatically save your video projects every 10 minutes, which is fine as a default. In Adobe Premiere, I usually have it set to autosave within every 5 minutes. But 10 minutes works very well also. Next, I recommend changing the file path for autosave files. Set it to the project folder within your video projects folder structure that we discussed before. This way, you will know exactly where to find these autosave files if you need them. This autosave function creates backup files of your project every 10 minutes, okay? So if something unexpected happens during your video edit, like the program just crash, then you can recover your progress by using these autosave files. One other small adjustment I made right after starting this program was tweaking a couple of shortcut keys. To do this, go to the shortcut tab. Scroll down until you find the selection labeled increase timeline scale and decrease timeline scale. Even if you don't fully understand these settings yet, I recommend changing them to make your workflow smoother. I set increase timeline scale to the F key, okay? So F like Francis. And decrease timeline scale to the D key. D like David. I'll explain these shortcuts in more detail later when we start editing. They will hopefully make more sense then. So that's it for now in this settings window. Click OK. Alright, to start editing, we need to import some materials into the project. There are several ways to do this. For example, go to File, Import, Media, or use the Import button here in the interface. You can also simply double-click this window to open the file browser. I always use the third method, so by double-clicking this window, I'll navigate to the Materials folder where I have my music, and here is the track I'll use for this edit. Select it, and now it's added to the project. Next, let's go back to the folder and grab the video clips. I'll add these 4 clips to the project as well. There we go, they are all imported. Now if we want to start editing, we can either drag the clips directly onto the timeline or preview them first in the trimmer window. And let's maybe see this drone clip. So there is this really nice forest view. And there is like nothing special here, but anyway, let's decide on a section to bring into the timeline. And here is how we could do that. Use the Set In Point button to mark the starting point. Okay, then go to the point where you want the clip to end. And click the Set Out Point button. So now we can just drag this selected section to the timeline. You might see this message pop up saying something like the editor sequence settings differ from the clip you are adding. And this happens because we created this project and our timeline or the project settings was set to full HD and 25 frames per second, if you remember. However, this video clip that we are bringing into the timeline, it's in 4K resolution, so it's way bigger than our the timeline settings are. This is just an informational message, so we don't actually need to worry about this for this tutorial, but I just want you to know why this message appears. Click this Remember My Choice and then No to avoid changing the editor sequence settings to match the clip. If your video clip appears to be very small on the timeline, you can zoom in to the timeline using the zoom tool here. So let's zoom in to get a closer view of the timeline. If you press the spacebar, you can play the video and see how it looks. So great, it's playing smoothly. So, but now you might notice something. The video clip appears to be cropped or zoomed in. So if we compare these windows, like how this video looks in the trimmer window and how this video looks in the final result window. So why is that? This happens because the clip is in 4K resolution, but our timeline is set to full HD. Okay? And this is actually what we talked about just a moment ago, like what the dialog box meant, which appeared to us when we tried to put this clip into the timeline. We were trying to put a 4K video to a full HD timeline. So this is why the video looks like it's cropped, basically. Okay, so what do we need to do? To fix this, we need to scale the video clip like smaller. And here's how to do it. Select the video clip on the timeline and go to the Controls tab, then find Transform and adjust the scale setting. Since this is a 4K clip, scaling it down to 50% should work. So now you can see the clip is displayed at the correct size in the final result window. Okay. So now things are good. What can you do with the video clips on the timeline? So for example, using the arrow tool, you can extend or shorten the clip by dragging its edges. For example, if you drag the edge of the clip to the right or to the left, you are essentially revealing more or less of the original footage. Remember, the original video clip contains more material than what you see here on the timeline. Because when we trimmed it here in the trimmer window, we only took a small section from the longer video to the timeline. Okay? This means that trimming the clip doesn't permanently delete any part of the original footage. It's all still here. So if you decide you need more footage from the from the original clip, you can just bring it back by extending the edges with the arrow tool. Of course, this only works if there is actually more footage available in the original clip. If the video clip ends at that point, you can't extend it further to the right, because the video clip ends to that point, you know. With the arrow tool, you can also move the clips around the timeline, drag it between different video tracks, or move it wherever you want. Now let's look at the slice tool. In Adobe Premiere, this is called the razor tool. So this tool allows you to split a video clip into parts. Or you can also split images and music tracks, of course. For example, let's click in the middle of this clip to split it. There we go, nice. The clip is now divided into 2 separate clips. So let's split again one of these clips. And done. Now if we switch back to the arrow tool, we can, for example, move these smaller clips or sections around the timeline. So that's the main point of the slice tool. It lets you cut any type of media into smaller pieces, whether it's video, images, text, audio or music. For now, I'll delete the second halves of the split clips by selecting them and pressing delete. Let's focus on this remaining clip. Okay, let's add some more footage to the timeline. I'll drag this forest clip directly onto the timeline without previewing it in the trimmer window. So, and let's check out this clip. Yep, it's just like the previous drone clip. This one is also in 4K resolution. That means we need to scale it down to fit our full HD timeline. To do this, click on the video clip and go again to the controls panel. Find the scale option here and set it to 50%. Now the clip is again displayed at correct size in our full HD workspace. As you can see, this video clip is pretty long. I would shorten it quite a bit. Now the question is, which part of this clip do we want to keep on the timeline? As I watch through the clip, let's say I decide to trim some footage from the beginning of the clip. So to do this, use the arrow tool and you just drag the left edge towards the white line. Next, let's find the point where we want the clip to end. I think I'll stop it just before the camera starts tilting downwards. So move the playhead, the white line, to that point of the video. Grab the right edge of the clip with the arrow tool and trim it there. So now we have shortened this clip to just a small section. Let's move on and add the third video clip, the field clip. I'll drag this field clip directly onto the timeline. Again, this one is already pretty short. Let's take a look. So it's nice shot of a field with the crops like swaying in the wind. If you look closely, this clip has an audio track attached to it, even though there is no sound in the audio track. For clarity, we can remove this empty audio track like this. Right click on the clip and select unlink. This separates the audio and video tracks so you can move them like independently. Now that the audio track is unlinked, click on the audio track and press delete. So now there is just the video track on the timeline anymore. For this video clip, we don't actually need to scale it down because it's already in the same resolution as our project is. We can leave it at 100%. Next, let's talk a bit about effects, specifically ones like fade in and fade out. You can find the effects in the Effects tab. Let's go to the Transitions and Video and open that menu. Here we will find an effect called Cross Dissolve. This is a classic effect, also available in Adobe Premiere, and it works as a fade in or fade out, both videos and for images. To apply it, drag the effect to the beginning or to the end of a video clip and just drop it there. And let's see what happens. Nice, the video fades in smoothly at the start. You can adjust the duration of the effect by grabbing the edge of the effect with the arrow tool. And you can drag it to make it longer or shorter. And now if we want to add a fade out effect, we just drag and drop the cross dissolve effect there as well. And let's stretch it a bit to make the fade longer. And now it looks pretty good. The video clip fades out at the end. So let's add this cross dissolve effects to the beginnings and to the ends of the other clips as well. So drag the effect to each spot, adjust the duration for each fade, and now everything should work smoothly. Yes, nice, 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 nice. And as you can see, the effects panel has like a massive selection of effects. In this tutorial, we are definitely not going to go through all of them. You can explore them on your own later. So let's think about like color grading. Is there anything we can use for that? How about we drag the saturation and lightness effect onto one of these clips? So once we drop the effect onto the clip, the Controls tab opens automatically. And now we can see the settings for the effect. Let's expand the effect settings here. For example, we have this saturation. If we put this to, for example, -100, the clip becomes black and white. So let's set it back to normal. So then there is this hue, which allows us to adjust the color tone of the video, or color hue. Next there is this lightness. We can make it lighter or darker as needed. Below that we have specific color channels like red, yellow, green, cyan, blue and magenta. Each channel has its own adjustments here. If you have used Adobe Premiere before, this will feel familiar, as the Premiere has a similar like effect controls tab for managing the effects settings. So let's maybe remove this effect from the video clip. Now that we have adjusted the colors of the video, this is a great opportunity to talk about the grade layers, also known as adjustment layers in Adobe Premiere. To add a grade layer, click New Clip and select Grade. And here we have our adjustment layer. So what does a grade layer do? What does it do? On its own, the grade layer doesn't do anything. Notice that even though it's on the top of the clips, nothing changes in the video. And that's because the grade layer is just a container for effects. So if we apply effects to the grade layer, all of the video clips below it on the timeline will inherit those effects. Okay, and let's test this. Let's add the curves effect, for example, to the grade layer. Now the curves settings appear in the Controls tab. Let's make a bold adjustment by increasing the contrast. We can see that the contrast adjustment is applied to the first video clip here. But is it also applied to the second one? Yes, it is. Both clips now have the same like high contrast effect that we did to the curves effect. So this is the power of grade layers. We can apply an effect in one place and it impacts all the clips below it. Very, very nice. What happens if we move into the timeline point to where the grade layer ends? Here. So as we can see, once the grade layer ends, its effects also stop. The contrast adjustment that we made will no longer apply to these clips beyond the grade layer's duration. Like if we extend this grade layer by dragging its edge further, now also the effects will apply to all of the clips that are under the grade layer. But for this project we don't actually need any extra like color adjustments, so we can delete the entire grade layer, okay? If you have any questions about these grade layers or adjustment layers, feel free to leave me a comment below. Let's continue by talking about keyframes and how to create a simple animation in HitFilm. Looking at our video, you can see that the first clips have some movement, like the camera is moving forward. But the final clip feels to me too static, like it's too still. I would like to add a small zoom effect to this clip, as if the camera is slowly moving forward. You know? And here is how we can do that. Let's select the field clip, go to the Controls tab, and if you watch closely, next to scale, there is this small circle icon. Let's click it and you will see a small square appear on the timeline in the Controls tab. And this is called a keyframe, if you haven't ever created a keyframe before. Keyframes are the building blocks of any animation, okay? But if you have only one keyframe, on its own it doesn't create an animation. We always need at least 2 keyframes with different values to create a movement or a change in the video clips or images if we want to create like any animation. To add a second keyframe, let's move the timeline thing to here and let's simply change the scale value. Like decide how much you want the clip to zoom in. For example, let's set it to 115 and when you do this, another keyframe should automatically appear on the timeline in the Controls tab, like so. If you want to adjust the keyframe timing, you can just drag the new keyframe with your mouse and drag it further to the right side to extend the zoom animation. So now it should work, so let's play it and see if there is any animation. So now the clip starts at the 100% scale and smoothly zooms into 115% over the duration of the 2 keyframes. Nice. So now the zoom adds some like dynamic movement to the clip, making it feel more in line with the other clips where the camera moves forward, if you know what I mean. If you have never worked with keyframes before, here is an important point. The closer the keyframes are to each other, the faster the animation happens. Okay? For example, if I move the keyframes closer together like this, the faster the animation happens. For instance, if I drag them like this, nothing happens first, but then the zoom starts and finishes when it reaches the second keyframe. On the other side, like if the keyframes are far apart, the animation will be also slower, because the animation has more time to complete. But yeah, that was an example of a simple zoom animation. But what if we want to rotate the video clip at the same time when it zooms in? We can do it using the rotation setting in the Controls tab. If you adjust the rotation value, you will see the video clip rotate in the right upper window. To animate this rotation, we'll need to add a couple of keyframes. Again. So click again the circle icon next to rotation to create the first keyframe, move forward in the timeline and change the rotation value to something like 30 degrees. And let's see what happens. Nice, the clip rotates smoothly. If the rotation feels too extreme, you can adjust the second keyframe's value. To do this, move the playhead, the white line, directly over the second keyframe. Then change its value to something smaller, like 4 degrees or something. And how to easily jump between keyframes. Use the next keyframe and previous keyframe buttons here. These buttons lets you quickly move to the exact position of any keyframe if you want to do these adjustments. So, but now let's adjust the timing of these keyframes. Move the first keyframe to the beginning of the clip and the second keyframe to the end. This way the rotation will happen gradually over the entire duration of the clip. Now if we see our video in the timeline, the field clip, it will both zoom in and rotate at the same time. Nice. So this was like the basics of any animation. If you didn't know anything about animation, now you know at least a little. Alright, so let's now talk a little bit about texts, okay? So how to add text to our video edit. For example, we will add like "thanks for watching" text at the end of the video. So to add text, go to new clip and select text. Type in the text like "thanks for watching", and once you have done that, just click somewhere empty to deselect the text box. Now if we want, we can move, rotate or scale the text using the options under transform. Position lets you move the text horizontally or vertically. With scale you can make the text bigger or smaller. With rotation you can rotate the text. If you want to center the text into the video frame, here is a quick way to do it. Click on the text to select it. If you have enabled the layout panel, you will find the alignment tools there. Click the horizontal alignment button to center the text horizontally, and then click the vertical alignment to center text vertically. And it's centered. So let's change the font size and other text properties. Click again on the text and go to the character settings. Then choose a font from the drop-down menu, and let's pick some font quickly. Adjust the font size to make it bigger, and you can also tweak the other basic font settings here if you want. Once your text is ready, let's again make sure it's centered. And now if you want, we can extend the duration of the text on the timeline by dragging its edges. For instance, we can let the text continue even after the video has ended, like this. And let's see how that looks. Nice. So let's next add the fade effects to the text. Go to the Effects tab, then Transitions and Video and Dissolve. Let's find our cross dissolve effect and put it to the beginning and to the end of the text clip. Now the text clip should fade in at the start and fade out at the end. And it works. Nice, nice, nice. Let's maybe make this a little bit shorter and let's see it again. First the video fades out and then the text fades out nicely. So that's like the basics of texts. How to add texts to your video in HitFilm. As a side note, if you remember at the beginning of this tutorial, I mentioned something about keyboard shortcuts, okay? Specifically, I changed the increase timeline scale to the F key and decrease timeline scale to the D key. And let's now see what these shortcuts do. When I press F, I can zoom in on the timeline here, nice. And when I press D, I zoom out of the timeline, nice. This same functionality can also be accessed using the zoom tool. You see this tool here, but I personally prefer zooming with the keyboard because it's way much faster, okay, to zoom with your keyboard. This is like the first thing that I did when I opened HitFilm. I searched where I can change these shortcuts and I immediately put these shortcuts to HitFilm because when I use, for example, Adobe Premiere, I always zoom with keyboard because, as I said, it's way much faster. Because if you think about it, if you constantly have to move your mouse to this tool, select the zoom tool here and then zoom in and zoom out, it's going to slow you down if you edit a lot of videos. So instead, with these shortcuts, you can keep the right hand on the mouse and do other things on the timeline. And with your left hand on the keyboard, you can just press F key and D key to zoom in or zoom out. It's nice, it's more easier. And I'm talking, of course, from my point of view. I use my mouse with my right hand, and with my left hand I use the keyboard. So, but anyways, this small adjustment will save you an incredible amount of time in the long run. Just saying. I'm talking about my own mistakes. So let's next talk about music and audio. We have this free track here, this free music track. I downloaded it from a site called mixkit.co. So let's listen to it a bit. It's a pretty ambient track without any real rhythm. If you want to find a different kind of music, feel free to search for something else. This was the best option I could quickly find for this tutorial from free audio libraries. Now let's drag this music track onto the timeline and talk about how to edit it. As you can see, the music track is much longer than our video. The video ends here, but the music continues beyond that. To fix this, we can shorten the music track using again the arrow tool. So grab the right edge of the music track and drag it inward to match the length of the video. And now let's check the end of the track. As we heard, the music ends quite suddenly. To make this end smoother, we can add fade in and fade out effects to the music track. So go to the effects, transitions and audio and find the fade. Drag this effect onto the beginning and to the end of the music track. You can zoom in closer and then extend the duration of the fade effect. Do the same thing for the end of the track. Extend it slightly. And let's listen this again. I would say much better, but I'll shorten the track a bit more so the last note doesn't come through. Now it ends much more smoothly. For the beginning, I'll extend the fade a little. And perfect. Now we have a fade in and a fade out for the music track. Nice. If you want to adjust the music volume, you can use this line here on the track. It's the volume control line. So by dragging the line downward, lowers the volume. And let's test it. As you can hear, the music is now playing more quietly. If I drag it even lower, it becomes like you can't almost hear it anymore. So let's raise it back up, but not to full volume. Let's set it to -5 decibels, which sounds a good level for me. One more thing about volume. If you have a video with a voiceover and background music, you might want the music to play more quietly while the voiceover is like playing, or you should hear the voiceover. So when the voiceover starts, the music volume goes down, and when the voiceover ends, the music volume can increase again. So how to do that? For example, let's just imagine that we have some voiceover playing during this part of the video, and we want the music to play quietly during the voiceover and then get louder afterwards. Let's hold down the Control key. Move your mouse over the volume line of the music track and you will see a crosshair icon appears. Click on the volume line to add a keyframe. And let's add a second keyframe also, somewhere here. Drag the second keyframe down to reduce the volume. For example, let's pull it down to something like this. Then how to raise the volume again. Let's add 2 more keyframes to somewhere here by again holding Control and clicking with the mouse on the line. So let's drag the 4th keyframe back up to increase the volume again, for example to -5 decibels. And let's see what we have done. So as the video plays, the music volume decreases during the voiceover, imaginary voiceover, and then increases back to its original level. So, like this, you can add keyframes to your audio track and you can fine-tune the volume to ensure that the music complements the voiceover and other sounds in your video. Nice. One thing about the music, the track we are using here is from a free site called mixkit.co. On Mixkit you can find free videos, free music, free sound effects and more. And I recommend reading their licensing details carefully so that you understand where and how you can use their materials. But if you reach the point where you feel that the free music libraries don't offer variety, or if you are working on a lot of like real client projects, I highly recommend checking out artlist.io. Artlist is a paid service, of course, but it offers an amazing library of high quality music, for example video projects. What makes Artlist so great is its licensing. When you buy their annual subscription, you can download music and use it in almost any project. Your client projects, your YouTube videos, personal projects, and even movies, films. I just wanted to mention about Artlist because I personally use Artlist. For last 3 years I have purchased their annual subscription because Artlist is so easy to use and it gives you this like a peace of mind because you don't need to think about like how you can use the music. You can use the music of Artlist basically for every kind of project you have. So it gives you this peace of mind, I would say. If you decide to buy Artlist license subscription, feel free to use the links in the video description below because it helps to support my work here on YouTube. So thank you so much. And if you have learned like anything from this video, feel free to like this video and leave me a comment and subscribe to my channel. It helps me very much. So last things, let's talk about exporting your video. Like how to save the video we have worked so hard to edit. Let's go to the export tab. By default it's set to the YouTube HD preset. This preset, as the name suggests, this exports the video in full HD. These settings should meet the YouTube's minimum video quality requirements, so it's basically our choice for this tutorial. If you want to adjust the export quality settings, you can do it under the Presets tab. Here you can create a new preset by selecting New Preset, or you can edit an existing preset by right-clicking and choosing Edit Preset. From here you can customize the export quality and settings. However, we are not going to dive into these details in this basics tutorial, as it would take a lot of time, you know. So let's go ahead and finally export the video. Click on Export Now and select Contents. This will start the export process immediately. Once the export is finished, you will find the video file in the location specified in the output settings here. In my case, it's saved on my desktop. If the video looks good, you can move it to your exports folder. I mean, into the folder structure we made for this video project in the beginning of this tutorial. But yeah, that's basically it. Now the video is exported. Let's watch it. By the way, you might have noticed that the music fades out in the middle of the exported video and fades back in because we added these keyframes into the music track here in the edit. If you want to fix that, please do so, but for me it's fine. Yeah, that's how you basically export a video from HitFilm. If you want to know more about the export settings in more detail, please ask me in the comments and I can maybe do another tutorial for you guys. Okay, and you can do basically what you need to do with the video. From here you can send the video file to a friend, share it with a client, upload it to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. But on the other hand, if you feel it's not ready and you feel you need to edit it a little bit more, then you just open HitFilm and do the edits, fine-tune the video, adjust the music, adjust the colors and so on, and then you just export another version of the video. And if you're fine with that version, good. I just want to say that video editing is very detailed process. Of course, everybody does it differently, and but for me, I'm very a detail-oriented editor. So I usually fine-tune my video edits a lot, you know, maybe too much. But when I edit a video, for example, for a client, I want to do it properly. I want to make the edit like that. It doesn't annoy me when I watch the video next year, or I want to make the video edit so good that I am happy and the clients are happy. So the fine-tuning of a video edit can take time. I'm just saying that. But of course, that also depends on the video. Like if it's your personal project or if it's like a very expensive video that you are doing for a client. But yeah, so it depends, of course, also on the project. We are getting to the end of this tutorial, and I hope you keep in mind that in this tutorial we didn't edit anything fancy. I didn't want to overwhelm you with anything too fancy, too difficult. I just wanted to let you know how HitFilm basically works and how you can bring materials into HitFilm and do some basic editing and add some effects, add some animation and things like that. So we just covered the very basics of HitFilm. Okay, if you didn't understand something I said or something I showed you in this tutorial, please feel free to ask in the comments and I can explain myself more. So thank you so much for watching. This tutorial was a long one, but I hope you learned something from it. Anyways, I'm Joe, and I'll see you in the next video.